he disappeared. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I can't believe it either. But it's strange how he disappeared like that.
It will never be over!
Hey, cheer up. Seeing that fight from the helicopter's camera reminds me of Twisted Metal.
It sure did. And since it's July, how about we just do a review/documentary on Twisted Metal? Are you down for it?
I'm down for it. Let's do it, partner.
Good luck, driver. Welcome to Twisted Metal.
Ah yes, Twisted Metal, one of Sony's commercial flagship franchise of the entire video gaming history. When people hear the word Twisted Metal, most people would think, hey, isn't that the game that has like a killer clown driving around in an ice cream truck? And that's how you know people remember this game of how iconic it is.
But before we talk about Twisted Metal, we figure we'd be explaining a short history about the Sony PlayStation and its creation. Back in the late 80s to the early 90s, Sony and Nintendo did have a partnership in making the CD disc-based add-on for the Super Nintendo. Unfortunately, the partnership didn't last long after Nintendo announced that Philips would be making the CD add-on, which rubbed Sony the wrong way. Sony, seeing the deal had fallen apart, decided to make partnership with Sega, but to no avail. Out of options, they said fuck it, and made the CD console we know as the PlayStation in December 3rd, 1994 in Japan, and released a year later in September in the USA.
Back in the day, it looks impressive, even including in today's standards. So how did Twisted Metal came into the creation? Entering legendary game director and co-creator David Jaffe. According to his bio, he graduated from Alabama's Mountain Brook High School, located in Mountain Brook, Alabama, a suburb of Birmingham. Jaffe then attended the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. He's a very interesting guy. In fact, he has a YouTube channel, which I'll put a link down below. Drop by and say hello to him. The idea for Twisted Metal was that he got back from Utah and he was stuck in LA traffic.
We had gotten back from Utah the very first time when we saw this three-dimensional database and we saw basically what 3D gaming could be, and we were stuck in traffic out by the LA airport. I think it's sort of a, at least for me, and I hope I'm not making myself crazy here, but I think it's a natural fantasy people have to be stuck in a car in traffic and just want to have missiles and guns on your car.
His idea is both fascinating and interesting, which I kinda like this idea.
The game's plot centers around a man named Calypso, the host of a vehicular combat tournament called Twisted Metal. He promises to grant the winner of the tournament anything he or she desires, without any limit of availability or even reality. The game's story takes place on Christmas Eve 2005, during the 10th annual running of Twisted Metal taking place in Los Angeles.
Now keep this date important because it mentions that Twisted Metal taking place as the 10th annual. There are 12 cars in this game. Roadkill, driven by Captain Spears. Hammerhead, driven by Mike and Dave. Spectre, driven by Scott Campbell. Which is odd and awesome at the same time just to see a co-founder's name in the game. Mr. Grimm, driven by, well, Mr. Grimm. Warthog, driven by Commander Mason. Pit Viper, driven by Angela Fortune. Crimson Fury, driven by Agent Stone. Thumper, driven by Bruce Cochran. Outlaw, driven by Carl Roberts, a literal police officer that wants to shut down Twisted Metal. Darkseid, driven by a mysterious figure named Mr. Ash. Yellowjacket, driven by a taxi driver, Charlie Kane. And last but not least, the poster boy himself, Sweet Tooth, driven by Needles Kane.
Is that actually Sweet Tooth?
Yeah, it's pretty hard to believe that he doesn't even look remotely like the one that we know. To be brutally honest, he looks more like Krusty the Clown from The Simpsons.
Hope all you kids come out this weekend and really pack this place just to show them how grateful I am. I told them you would. Don't make me a liar.
And as for the ice cream truck itself, it reminded me of that ice cream truck from the movie Killer Clowns from Outer Space. If you understand the pop culture reference, well, this is pretty much one of them. There's plenty other pop culture references.
Each character has their own stats and bio in the character selection. Once selected, the game begins in the arena duel.
Seeing the gameplay itself reminds me of Demolition Derby, but with guns and missiles. But this is also another pop culture reference to the movie Death Race 2000. The plot is that it's a cross-country road race where contestants has to go against each other by winning most points by running over pedestrians, which inspired a computer game in 1989 called Death Track, a sci-fi racing game where you're fucking up your opponents with missiles, miniguns, and also landmines. Overall, the gameplay is good, though I find it incredibly short that there's only 6 levels.
As previously mentioned, the arena duel is the first level. Warehouse District Warfare, Freeway Free-for-All, River Park Rumble, Assault on Cyberbia, and the Rooftop Combat as the final level. The difficulty will increase by the number of drivers on screen from 1 to 3 to 5 to 6 to 8 to 3 again on each levels, plus the final boss minion. According to the text, it says he was the last year's contestant in Twisted Metal.
An armor tank that has more control than anything else in particular than the contestants have. Once he is finally defeated is when you basically speak with Calypso about your prize. Each character has their own different endings, just like in the game Mortal Kombat. Some of them have good endings, some of them have bad endings, some of them are just downright hilarious, and that's actually the joy of it. This game got the Game of the Year, and David Jaffe was worried about his job, was seriously blown away with this big W at the very end.
I said, I'm going to start looking for a new job tomorrow because they're going to fire me because this is a disaster. And it turned out not to be. It turned out that we ended up, and I was stunned because somebody told me, oh, you guys got Game of the Year. And I'm like, what are you talking about, right? And then it turns out, and I won't mention the magazine because I don't think legally we can, but we ended up getting Game of the Year from the most prestigious game magazine that was out at the time. And I was just, it was amazing that it all actually worked. I mean, this was the first big game I had ever done. It was the first game these guys in Utah had ever made. And we ended up with a game that a lot of people really, really loved to the point that we were getting these major awards. And so it all worked out. I have no clue how. Maybe we all just got really lucky. I don't know. But it was cool. It was very, very cool.
Being impressed with Twisted Metal gaining the Game of the Year and its high reviews, they decided to actually, of course, make another sequel, Twisted Metal 2 World Tour. You got your same cars with different drivers and some new edition cars with newer drivers. And for the first time, this is how we know about Sweet Tooth and his fiery hair being as the most iconic in Twisted Metal.
Can we stop and say that Sweet Tooth looks almost like Bozo, the world's most famous clown?
Bozo, the world's most famous clown.
It's unfortunate that he is an unlockable character that you have to find the password for. The gameplay itself is still the same as like the original, only a titch upgraded than before. Plus it has 8 levels to play through than the 6 levels from the previous. Such places like Los Angeles, Moscow, Paris, Amazonia, New York, Antarctica, Holland, and finally Hong Kong. Out of every single last 8 levels, they are just impressive.
The mid-level boss is Minion as a returning and selectable character, which is cool. And the final boss is Darktooth, driven by Charlie Kane, the former driver of Yellow Jacket from the previous game.
Yeah, which is unfortunate to see a returning character, only now he's the final boss. Just to address the pink elephant in the room, that Darkseid is no longer a selectable character. In fact, he's not even in the roster. Taking a look at the character roster, there is one character that seems out of place among the rest, and he seems to be breaking the fourth wall. The driver of Roadkill is Marcus King, which that could have been a coincidence to have the same last name. And what's weird is that he already knows that he's in a video game, and yet you're the player that's playing him, which leads more mystery among the characters in the roster. Amanda Watts, the driver of Twister that wants to break the space-time continuum by speed. Every character in this roster alone has a purpose as to the reasons why for entering Twisted Metal.
It's time to start dropping some F-bombs! Fuck! 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 Fuck!
Looking at Minions' bio, he seems to have a very grudge against Calypso, and it definitely shows it in the ending.
Calypso, you are coming with me.
Minion, it's so good to see you again. Surely we can work out a deal?
You stole my powers, Calypso, 11 years ago, stripping me of my birthright. Now it is time to pay the price.
No, please, Minion. It's scary
Let's
down there.
go, little Calypso
I
man.
want to race my car.
Time to rot in hell with your little sister.
Judging by the interactions with those two, they seem to know each other 11 years ago. Remember how I said that the Twisted Metal contest was going to be the 10th running? That would mean that the contest alone had started back since 1995, which is the same year that he met Minion.
There's even more mystery with another character, Krista Sparks, the driver of Grasshopper.
Daddy? It's me, Krista! I'm back!
Krista, I thought you had died. I thought in the car crash that almost killed me. You're alive! Property of the LAPD?
I'm sorry, Father. They rebuilt me after the accident. They knew I could get close enough to you. They want to put a stop to all the violence you caused with your contest. Hold me, Daddy. I'm just a machine now, but I'm scared the explosion will hurt.
Calypso recognized her as his daughter. The car crash he's referring is the same year that almost killed him. Unfortunately, it did, and he ended up in hell is when he met Minion. After Calypso lost him, Satan, who saw the whole thing, was impressed. He gave Calypso a drink, which turned him into the Wish Granter by running Twisted Metal. From there is when he was brought back to life from the car crash, hence the deformity of his face. Twisted Metal 2 take place a year after the first game into 2006, meaning the contest was running for 11 years.
Which kind of adds the deepest layer of mystery, which I absolutely love it for some reason. There's plenty of other mysteries too, such as like Marcus Kane, but that'll be another time. So in conclusion, Twisted Metal 2 kicks ass than its predecessor. But it's gonna be good from here on in, because in the next part, we'll never be the same. So check in for part 2 on the next episode of Twisted Metal on Case Files.